Hello, welcome to my vlog. um, my name is Naomi Sadler. I'm 40. I live in Nottingham in the UK. I'm an artist. I'm a cartoonist. My work is mostly starts from kind of a habitual, methodical, obsessive, maybe drawing practice of making lots of drawings in a very free, kind of unburdened, a little bit aimless, not aimless, but like just making drawings of whatever things I'm interested in, or doodles, or little things on small bits of paper, which I do a lot of, and I hoard them, and they sometimes turn into projects. So sometimes they turn into comic books. Sometimes they turn into bigger drawings, like you see over there. This is like a huge big drawing made up of lots of smaller ones. The thing fell down. Up here you can see some of the things from the show I did with A10. Sometimes the drawings I use printmaking, like screen printing, and I have a photocopy behind me which I love using. I like generating images. Yeah, I make comic books sometimes. I collect drawings and found materials into like little zines. This is the tiny one I'm just working on today. Oh, here is a bigger one. This kind of collects together some of the artwork that was in the A10 shows, but then there's also some other stuff in there. I've been doing that since I was first zine I made, I was like 17, 16, 17, which is a long time ago. After a few years of kind of experimenting with zines, I found my voice and I realized like I really cared about making comic books. I worked with my younger brother a lot, and I had like a little kind of weird art collective with my brother and our friend and her older brother, and our group was called Famicom. We'd collaborate together on like weird little video games and cartoons, and the group was called Famicom. We'd publish our stuff on YouTube. This was before YouTube had adverts. And I decided I wanted to create like a publishing company called Famicom Express, which is still running now, 20 years later. And it's mostly just me and my brother's stuff, but I do occasionally publish other people's things as well. And I kind of started that because I already had a few people. I had like, a little audience for myself, and I wanted to share my friends' work with that audience too. And I thought if I had like a little publishing company, then if people liked my work, then they might then look at what my friends do as well. So it was kind of a way to like expand, kind of expose people who I cared about to like an audience. And what can I say about that? Yeah, it's been going well. I do zine fairs and book fairs, maybe just a handful each year. It's a really good way to like travel around without feeling guilty, because you can kind of put it down as a business trip. And you can go to other countries or cities and take your little books with you, and you can say, hey, do you want to sell these in your shop? Or if there's other artists that you meet that you know from the internet, you can give them a little present, maybe do a swap if they've got some books too. And it's like, I was actually just kind of lecturing my friend. She's just opened a little shop in Tokyo where she Actually, the girl who I'm collaborating with on this, she makes clothes, and I was telling her how important it is to make zines as well, because it kind of widens. Like, she has like so many like amazing interests and kind of facets to her creative personality, but she only gets to use clothes to express that. So I was kind of trying to explain to her that, like, 'cause she does amazing drawings, that if you give yourself more platforms to express yourself, that's a really great way of having like discussions, visual discussions, whatever. Like, it's a really good way of kind of expressing your ideas, and we shouldn't put limitations on ourselves. So I've got some questions which I am going to answer. I hope that kind of... Oh, the other part I wanted to say is that I a couple of years ago I was able to pretty much start to... It was out after COVID. I was pretty much able to start to just live on the money I make from doing freelance work, and I was on government welfare, but I'm not on that anymore. So now I am a full-time creative person. I do a little bit of teaching. I teach a little bit of graphic design, just a little bit. I mostly kind of make my living from doing illustration commissions, and sometimes like a bit of graphic design, like a little logo or a record cover or something like that, or some t-shirt graphics I do quite a bit, but I also self-produce my own little clothing label, experimental clothing label I call it, because I'm very inconsistent and I'm not very... I'm not trying to really achieve anything with it. I'm just using it as a zone to kind of experiment with stuff. And I also self-publish little books and things, but they don't really generate any money. Yeah, but it's important for me to do that, because that's the kind of stuff that I'm most obsessed with. I think I've had more significant, or what's the word, bigger, more powerful experiences with little books that I've found, rather than kind of walking around museums and art galleries. Like, as much as I love that stuff, I think the things that have had like more effect on me have been these more intimate kind of dialogues or conversations. I'm monologuing now, sorry. Yeah. So, what is my relationship with self-production regarding my artistic practice? I think this question is asking me about like having a DIY kind of ideology. For me, like, it's important to just make stuff myself, because I don't really want to wait around for kind of someone to say, here's an opportunity for you to be creative. I want to create my own opportunities. I don't want any gatekeepers deciding, you're allowed to show your art. You're not allowed to show your art. You are. You're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, that kind of system is so like uninspiring and stupid. Like, of course I participate in that. I love the validation of being like having the gate open for me and being allowed into the gallery to show something. But I'm also very aware of all the people for whom that gate is not open. So it's like a bittersweet like experience and kind of way of expressing. So what I like about people who just make stuff themselves, no one asked them to make it. People just have kind of like a very naturally occurring, but some people could say it's irrational, like, desire to like just make stuff. And I'm someone who likes to make stuff. I'd rather just like be broke, making things, working in a cafe or working nice part-time job. Working, yeah. I'm rambling. What am I saying? What's my relationship with self-production regarding my artistic practice? I mean, having like a kind of end product or an end object, maybe something that's like reproduced in multiples, or it like is a one-off print or something. Having like an end point where ideas get resolved and kind of contained and like pulled together helps me to kind of focus, like, what do I want to say, what's important, how do I want to package it. Packaging to me is like, you know, the way that you stage the person's experience with your art. Being able to be in charge of like the front cover of your book gives you an opportunity to kind of direct the way that people encounter your thing for the first time. So this book cover is like very different to this one. And I want them to feel like they're about different things. And it's a simple thing, but it's like, I think it's important to kind of create that queendom habitat that your ideas kind of sit inside of, because we live in this weird world of chaos, and you don't have much control over a lot of things. But if you can at least control kind of like the bubble that you wrap around your work, I don't know, that's a powerful thing itself, and it's playful. And yeah, I was chatting to a friend this morning who we're gonna work on an animation collaboration together in the coming year. And he was we were talking about someone else we know who does very incredible, epic, hand-drawn animations. And we realized we were both really intimidated by that. And it's great that he can kind of be this kind of genius person, but it's also like very discouraging. And we were talking about like how much we love it when you see art that makes you feel like, oh, I can do that. I want to do that too. Maybe it's not that, maybe like it's not that exclusive. Maybe anybody can actually be an artist. And like, I want my stuff to kind of have that invitational aspect to it. So people, you know, the last thing you want is for people to feel like they can't make art. The thing you want is for more people to just be like, fuck it, I'm going to make something. I can do this. I'll make a zine. What is it? Piece of paper folded in half. Okay, I can do that. What is my relationship with it? What role has it played in my... I mean, it's given me kind of this amazing context. Like, I think of an artist like Gary Panter, who... he's like, you know, a very respected painter, but he's also like very influential comic book artist. And he worked on commercial stuff, and he worked on like underground punky stuff, and he really kind of is a very good example of like how an artist can kind of like have their, how do they say it, have your toe in lots of puddles. I don't think that's the right phrase, but by me being able to say like, hey, I'm a cartoonist, I can write a comic book, print it, take it to this shop, give one to this person. There's like a framework that exists where I can make something and slot my thing into it, and suddenly it's part of the conversation of weirdo comics or like contemporary comics or art comics, there is this kind of like little, very simple system, and it's not really, there is some gatekeeping, but not really, like it's easy to get past that. But you can kind of be a cartoonist, make a resolved piece of artwork, and then put it out there, and people will see it and acknowledge it and kind of think of it as part of an ongoing conversation, which I think is harder to do with like other forms of art, because there's more barriers to kind of like become part of the canon or whatever, or become to if you want your art to be part of the broader conversation, the structure is really wide and kind of closed, and it's hard to be heard. It's hard to have it's very competitive for your voice to be kind of heard. I mean, I guess I'm speaking from this thing about comics is like somewhat privileged, because I have over the years managed to kind of like find an audience, whereas maybe younger cartoonists haven't got the audience yet. But if they want that audience, there's not that many hurdles to jump like hoops to jump through. Like once you get your stuff in a few shops, once you participate in a few book fairs, once you have a few conversations and trade some stuff with a bunch of artists, like, then you're part of the thing. But I don't know what point that is. I guess that's like, yeah, it's like not waiting for permission. I think that's what self-production is like. You're not waiting for someone to tell you that you're allowed to be an artist. It's like, no, we're all artists, and some of us choose to kind of like show what we do. But some artists kind of like make the stuff and then hope that someone will, or like they'll ask for people to let them show it. That's something I really struggle with, for better or for worse. So I think I've answered quite a lot of these questions. What difficulties do I have with self-production? I mean, I never studied art, so I have that, imposter syndrome thing where I'm wondering if I'm doing things in a completely wrong and silly way. Am I doing everything wrong? Am I stupid? But what difficulties have there been? It's all been completely smooth, seamless, and perfect, and nothing has ever gone wrong. There's not actually, like, the difficulties are more around kind of like not knowing how, if there are other ways to kind of operate. Like, I don't really know how formal kind of structures of like contemporary art work. I don't know how it works, what it's like working with a gallery. I don't really know what it's like kind of like trying to work with a gallery, like pursuing that like in a like active way. I've never actively tried to get representation from a particular gallery, or I've never actively tried to kind of get a residency or like funding or anything like that. I've been very lucky that I've gotten opportunities through networks that I've participated in, I think. So if I want to kind of do things outside of my network, it does feel very intimidating, the idea of kind of like asking, hi, can I do this? Like, that to me, I mean, it's something that I find very challenging. So I suppose the DIY approach allows me to kind of practice, like have an art practice without really having to deal with the difficulty of approaching people. I don't know if that's the right way of putting it. Instead of kind of letting myself be pushed down, I would rather just get on with doing things my own way. There's a good question here. Is it personal or circumstantial that I work in a self-production, or that I work with self-production? I mean, I don't really come from a wealthy background, but not like, you know, I'm not gonna like pretend that I'm also like super broke or something. Like, when I finished university, I had to just get a full-time job, and I worked full-time at jobs for like 10, 12, 15 years. But that didn't stop me from being an artist. Like, the whole time I was working full-time, I was also using that money to self-produce work. I never tried to get funding because I never really believed that anyone would give me money to make art. I kind of didn't understand that was a thing. I thought like, oh, if I want to make art, I have to. That's kind of, it's not something that you do. That's not something you do for money. There's not really any money involved in making art. Like, so I never. Actually, this gets to the heart of some things. So I never really believed that, like, I never really was never exposed to the idea that, like, to make art, some funding body gives you money to make art. Like, I thought, if you want to make art, then you have to get the money from somewhere to make it, and then you make the art, and then someone might show it. For better or for worse, that was my understanding. So I never kind of wrapped my head around the idea of like asking people for money to make art. Like, to me, that was like, why would anyone ever give you money to make art? Like, if you want to make art, that's your problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to make art, then you're gonna have to find some money from somewhere to make the art. So, yeah, like I just worked at like whatever jobs I could get, and then I would live like a normal person, and some of the money I made, I would use it to buy like a printer or paper, or like my art doesn't really cost anything. I think that's part of like why I've been able to like maintain a practice for so long, is because one of the things is that I don't need I don't need to make money from art, because I can get it from jobs or freelance stuff. Not my mum and dad. They don't really have the money to. They can't just give me money to, like some like like some artists have like, good for them. Like, they have parents that give them money to make art, which is fab, I suppose. But I have to get it myself, which is fine. What am I saying? Is it circumstantial? Yeah, it is kind of circumstantial, but also like the circumstances that I have, that I am like a self-producing artist, kind of like those circumstances are fine. Like, they align with my politics. They are empowering. Like, I feel like waiting around for someone to help you make your art is like a little bit disempowering. If your art requires like a shit ton of money for it to happen, I mean, good for you, I suppose, but that does not appeal to me, like, because then you're obviously going to have to be compromising yourself in some way in order to get that money. So you could say that I've been compromising myself by working for the man, working full-time at like jobs under capitalism. That's true. I'd never thought of that until now. I think, should I have a crisis? A little existential crisis right now? I never thought of like that whole time I'd been working as like a form of compromise. I was just like, oh yeah, that's what everyone does. Of course you have to work. But maybe that's the compromise. Capitalism, it tricked me. It tricked me into thinking that it's normal to work full time and and just kind of put your dreams as like something that you do like in the evening or on the weekend. But hey, that's what I did. And I did it for a long time. But it got me to where I am now. And now I actually can be a full-time artist. So it's fine. There's nothing wrong. I don't have to worry about anything. Everything's okay. Everything's fine. Okay, I think that's a good point to stop. I hope that was useful and interesting. I'm going to have a drink of water and just think, is there anything else that I didn't say? This is a good cup, but this is an even better one. I mean, the things that inspire me as an artist are things like this. Do you know what I mean? I feel motivated to make art when I see something like this more than fucking, what have we got here? Yep. Like, of course, this is amazing. This is just some of the details of those. Of course, this is amazing, but it's also like, we don't live in that time. It's a different time of the world. Like, it would be weird if I made art like this. It wouldn't make sense within the world that we're in. So I make art that's more like this. But I also like the illogical nature of everything and the irrational. I'm rambling now. I think that's about enough. Half an hour of rambling. You guys have done really well. If you're still listening, good job. And I hope this was interesting. I'm sure it was interesting. And I don't know who's watching this, but like, I think it's good to kind of look at the things that are like helping you to make art or like prevent getting in the way of it. I've gotten to a point where there's not much getting in the way of me making art now. I'd like to have more time, but the time I spend doing freelance work or doing teaching is also like time for my brain to kind of work through ideas, and like I think of stuff whilst I'm doing that, which I can then use to make art. Anyway, art's not the be all and end all. It's good to do all sorts of things. It's good for me anyway. I like doing everything. I want time to just freeze so that I can make every single idea I have. And some of those ideas are like, I want to make a t-shirt, or I want to make a film, or I want to make 10 comic books, or I want to make some earrings, or I want to make a painting or a sculpture. I want to do a lot of things. And if I'm limited by like only being able to make certain things. Okay, I'm going to go because 10 seconds. This is 30 minutes worth. Ready, Goodbye, and thank you for watching. Follow me on Instagram.